30th, I mean, he just, to me, he suddenly emerged as this incredibly powerful person. I thought, where does he come from?
Yeah, no, I mean, he comes from Donald Trump land, and he was a young Capitol Hill advisor to the very first senator who endorsed Donald Trump back in the 2016 election campaign. That was a name you probably haven't heard in a while. That was Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions, who went on to become Donald Trump's first Attorney General until Donald Trump fell out with him over his recusal from the Russia investigation. Well, Stephen Miller switched carriers, if you will, and has been probably the most loyal companion and ideologue.
Is he from the South?
No, he's not. He's from a liberal family, including a family of Holocaust survivors in liberal Southern California. And there's a lot of people who think that it's his own grievance with growing up in a liberal Beverly Hills that led him to this career as a right-wing agitator. And he is in a position of enormous power right now.
I've just got to stop you here, because I mean, this is really gobsmacking in a sense. And it leads me to almost questions about the psychology of both Trump and people like Stephen Miller, because that just sounds completely contradictory.
Yeah, look, in Miller's case, he grew up in high school at the time of 9/11 and was affected by that, and very, very contrarian with his...
Take the next left onto Reed Street, then turn right onto Foot Street.
Classmates who didn't interview...
Turn right onto Foot Street.
Enough support for cracking down on Muslim immigrants. It became very performative even in high school, trying to force the high school to have a Pledge of Allegiance every day, and they didn't. He reacted to that, and he comes out of his grievance
It's a reaction to a huge shock.
Exactly, and it's a grievance kind of politics, right? Trump is also about grievance politics.
In 200 meters, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Foot Street.
Miller has been the ideological sort of foundation for Trump. He's not a very ideological person himself. Miller fills in the lines with policy. Trump knows that being against immigration is good politics. It's where his...
In 400 meters, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Tower Hill Road.
So Miller's the one who comes up with a specific policy, saying how do we get rid of temporary protected status for these people? How do we get rid of asylum seekers? How do we get rid of all these rules that allow people to stay in the country? And he's been given enormous power. He has been given enormous sway because he understands how to make the system work for Trump.
Hello, Geraldine Duke here, and you're listening to an extended conversation with two venerated journalists, Susan Glasser and Peter Baker, for ABC Radio National's global roaming program. Still to come, Peter and Susan's advice for Australians who are trying...
In 150 meters, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Tower Hill Road.
The age of Trump. I wonder if this could all go too far.
In 300 meters, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Tower Hill Road.
One of the questions I heard Ezra Klein just slightly tilting at the other day in a conversation with David Remnick, and that, in fact, he was pleading for the left to start doing lots more alliances to build up a broad church, like a coalition, and we're very used to that here in Australia. It seems to me that that's something that doesn't get discussed as much.
Well, in our two-party system, in effect, there already is a coalition. That's what the Democratic Party is a coalition.
150 meters, turn right onto Frankston, Flinders Road, Murray-Duck Highway.
Interest groups and priorities.
Turn right onto Frankston, Flinders Road, Murray-Duck Highway.
Broad spectrum from very progressive farther left politicians such as Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to centrists like the former President Joe Biden. But you're right that the Democratic Party is having a soul-searching moment right now, because there isn't one sort of consensus view of how to oppose Trump. Back in the first Trump term, I think there was a more unified idea of what was called the resistance at that time. There was an idea like hold the line, fight, and we can survive 4 years of Trump, but not 8. Well, now we're in the 8-year cycle, and there's not consensus.
He was pleading, Ezra Klein, for much more political thinking, politicized thinking, clever transactional deal doing in order to get this consensus you're talking about. He also said no Democrat should talk about 2028 in the presidential election. All the focus ought to be the midterms at the end of next year. Now, do you agree with that, Peter?
Well, I mean, look, that's the traditional view of a party, is to not get past the election you have right in front of you. In fact, there are actually elections next month, some off-year elections that are really the first priority for Democrats, showing that they have some power to...
They don't sound as if they've got much, I'll tell you. From
well, no, they don't. They don't. You're right, they don't. But there's a good chance that they win the House. That would be the historical norm. The question is whether it means anything, right? Would that do anything? Would that represent anything? And I think that what's important to remember is that Trump isn't acting like a normal president who uses Congress to enact his policies. In fact, he's doing the opposite. Every other normal president comes in and says, I want you to pass this in my first year or two because that's when I post the motion. He hasn't asked them to pass anything.
Continue on C777 for 2 kilometers.
Cuts. Everything else is doing through executive power. So even if the House changes hands, it may not mean that much in terms of agenda. He may still use his executive power to override Congress on defunding priorities that they would like to fund. We've seen him basically ignore it.
How strong are those, though? I've heard people saying that they haven't been used much in American history. Those aren't powers.
It's not clear he has those powers. That's exactly the point, is that Donald Trump is asserting to himself. It's not that he's claiming powers that other presidents were just weak and didn't claim. It's that he is actually defying someone to stop him. And that, I think, is the situation that we're in. The name Richard Nixon really hangs over a lot of this. In some ways, Donald Trump is the fever dream reincarnation of Richard Nixon. But after Nixon was essentially booted from office in disgrace, Congress passed a law, the Impoundment Act, which actually sought to stop future presidents like Donald Trump from doing exactly what he's doing, which is saying, I'm not going to spend this money that Congress has appropriated for certain measure. Donald Trump is basically saying, screw you, I don't care what that law says. Until someone stops me, I'm going to ignore
But that could go to the Supreme Court in theory.
It will go to the Supreme Court.
Well, is there anybody on the other side, on the Democrat side, who's got anything like this sort of personality, even if it is slightly cult-like, who could counter?
In 600 meters, at the roundabout, continue straight onto Muriduck Highway, C784.
If this is what's abroad at the moment,
This is the problem with the Democrats. They don't have a leader, right? They have a vacuum of leadership. They have a number of people on the bench who may eventually become leaders, become the person who can lead them out of it. But it's right now, as Susan said, I mean, they don't agree on anything. Right now, the problem for the Democrats is they don't know who they are, they don't know why they lost, and they don't know how to win.
well, what happens then? It's a devastating little diagnosis.
I think they would agree with that because they don't have a theory of the case that they agree on, right? They don't agree that some of the liberals say they lost the election because they weren't liberal enough, and the moderates say we lost the election because we were too liberal, and they don't agree on how it is that they lost. Therefore, they can't come up with a prescription how to win.
Well, I mean, I think, let's be clear that in our system, there's no leader of the Democratic Party, no single figure, because that's not the system that we have.
System.
Exactly.
I understand that.
I feel like, Reince Priebus, the then chairman of the Republican National Committee, that said it needed to become a much more diverse party, much friendlier to immigrants, much friendlier to Hispanic voters, and that's exactly the opposite of the strategy that Donald Trump successfully pursued in 2016 to win elections. So, I'm not saying that there's not a crisis inside the Democratic Party, because I actually think that there is, for some very real reasons, and part of it is I don't think they're masters of this particular radically changed communications and media environment in which Donald Trump has proved to be so successful.
Mandani has certainly mastered that, hasn't he?
Well, that's exactly right. And so there will be, very conflicting views that you get. Peter mentioned our upcoming off-year elections this November. So you'll have this very far-left socialist who appears to be leading by a very large amount in New York City's mayoral race, Mamdani. Republicans are going to be eager to make him the new face of the Democratic Party in the United States. They're going to say the Democrats are wild, dangerous, crazy, communist, Marxists. You can't trust them. And then, Republicans will be the one who are puffing that up. But at the same time, there are these gubernatorial elections in both Virginia and New Jersey, in which very kind of conventional, centrist, national security oriented women, former members of Congress, Maggie Sherrill from New Jersey, my home state. She's actually from my hometown of Montclair, New Jersey. And then Abigail Spanberger, Congresswoman from Virginia, both of them veterans of the U.S. military. And, they represent a very different face of the Democratic Party than Mamdani. And we'll see which side of that wins out ultimately.
So, I wonder really finally what your advice is then to Australians trying to come to terms with the age of Trump, and whether it is symptomatic of something more. I think that's the important thing to say. Should we just sit it out and hope that America restores itself somehow or other, which we're often being told, by the way, by John Bob told us that on Global Radio earlier this year.
In 600 meters, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Eramosa Road West.
That it sort of, and it restores its position on the global stage, or should we really be thinking in a totally different way? First to you, Susan.
Yeah, look, I have, thought for a number of years that in many ways, and this is something actually that the Japanese National Security Advisor said way back at the beginning of Trump 1.0 to a friend.
In 300 meters, turn right onto Darrell Road.
I come to Washington, he said at that time, because this is the epicenter of global instability, and I need to
turn right onto Darrell Road.
Here, and I think that is a frame that's important for the U.S.'s many friends and allies overseas to understand.
Continue on Darrell Road for 5 kilometers.
The United States is, in many ways, an inward-looking sort of war within, if you will, but it has these enormous geopolitical implications. The instability of the United States is that it's a country that is divided against itself, that can't decide, on its internal policies or its external policies. Donald Trump has had a very clear record throughout his time in public life of a marked preference for engaging with America's adversaries and a real distaste for long-term engagements with strength as a society.
Yes, that's a pretty dramatic thought, Peter, for Australians, I think, to hear. But final thoughts. Can I just say, before I ask you that, the last time you were both here, you said 7 years ago that you used to wake each other up every morning, this isn't the first time, and say, what has he done today?
Yeah.
Now, are you still doing that?
I try not to wake anybody up anymore because you'll never sleep. It literally is a 24-hour non-stop cycle of news. And that's actually what's important to remember is that this is not Trump 1.0. What we thought in Trump 1.0 was a cascade of extraordinary news stories and actions. And actually it turns out that he's managed to top that in the second term. In the first term, he didn't really know what he was doing because he had never been in public office in the military before. The first American president never had that experience, so he was still trying to figure it out. Again, people around him who tried to stop him or guide him toward what they thought would be wiser, more legal, more constitutional policies, and away from things that they thought weren't. He doesn't have those people around him anymore, and they have had 4 years out of power to plan for what they would do when they did come to power. And they have been much more systematic, much more methodical, much more rigorous and disciplined about the program that they have taken. So yes, we are waking up every day with something else happening that we might not have expected before, and we're going to sleep with something else that people will have happened.
So don't forget about restoration then, should we, Australians?
Well,
Restoration of the America we knew.
I don't think there's a snapback. I don't think the minute Trump leaves office, whenever that is, that America suddenly becomes what it was pre-Trump. Trumpism will continue regardless of whether Trump is there. It doesn't mean that there won't be a cycle in which things change. Remember, as I just said earlier, he's not doing legislation, so everything he's done through executive order can be undone through executive order. The culture, though, the culture war will continue, and where America is heading in a broader sense, I think, is still undetermined.
Peter Baker and Susan Glasser, that was a bracing but fabulous discussion. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Susan Glasser and Peter Baker, talking about the source of instability at the moment, which is the United States. Now, if you'd like to share any of your thoughts, though, please feel very welcome about this or any episode. Email us at global.roaming@abc.net.au. Look, I'll be back with Hamish next week for another episode of Global Roaming. Have a
Take the next right onto Graydon's Road.
Described by Jane Goodall as...
Aggressive and high-ranking female.
Not over-endowed with intelligence.
Well, it's the aggressively funny Nicolette Minster.
Yay! That's right.
They're not all necessarily accurate.
Big mean idiot.
And finally, it's a fantastic Melbourne comedian, breakfast presenter from Triple.
600 meters, turn left.
It's someone who, according to Jane Goodall,
Can very often intimidate a rival without having to resort to physical attack.
the threat nonetheless poised to strike. It's Nat Harris.
I know this is radio, but I'm giving a fierce look right now.
You are.
Yeah.
Let's get the panel warmed up though with their hottest takes of the weekend. Coming into summer, multiple brands of sunscreen have been pulled from shelves this week because they don't meet their SPF claims.
Australia's sunscreen scandal is growing tonight, with more brands pulled from the shelves over SPF concerns.
That's right, SPF 15, 30, 50. No one actually knows what any of it means. So, to the panel, what is another product whose inner workings are a complete mystery but you trust in?
Next left, then turn left onto Reservoir Circuit Trail.
To use anyway. Nicolette.
I would have to say beef stock.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, good one. Because often doesn't contain beef either.
No, and how do they get it so small?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good one.
Does it go off?
I mean, it goes off.
Eventually.
But I
Is
don't,
it? Do you just? Is it like?
Take the next left onto Reservoir Circuit Trail. Then your destination will be on the left.
He's taken a cow and given it to a crematorium and.
are you suspecting there's an entire cow in one cube of
Your destination is on the left.
You say
That's just
that
a
like
remarkable
I
break.
shouldn't say
No,
that.
I know. I
They
agree.
are packed full of flavour.
Yes, that is inarguable. But I will, and also I did ask you to tell us about a product you do not understand. So that would make sense. An entire cow in each stock cube, possibly not even containing
Well, it
beef.
depends. I mean, if you required two stock cubes to, it's the ratios. There could be more. I'm just saying, how do they get it into the cube?
Yeah, it's a valid question. It's an absolutely
So
valid question.
compact.
Good point.
Thank you.
people who have papers to be here temporarily, DACA recipients. This is a small group of people who are made ineligible under the last funding bill, or under the One Big Beautiful. Just call it something else.
Head south, then turn left.
The Republican budget bill.
The Republican
Yeah,
budget bill. And Democrats are seeking to restore their eligibility, but they are by no means trying to create a new set of subsidies or access to health.
Head southeast.
Do not have papers to be in the country legally. And it's a lie, and it's also race baiting, and it's also just...
Head west toward Reservoir Circuit Trail, then turn left onto Reservoir Circuit Trail.
War of the Republic.
Turn right, then turn right.
To distract from what they're really trying to do, which is make, redistribute income to the top, 0.01% and make everybody else pay for it.
Yeah, there's a couple things here. One, if Donald Trump had
Take the next right onto Graydon's Road.
Curtel, it would be when he starts lying about immigrants.
Yeah.
Like, that's a sign when he knows he's in trouble in some way, shape, or form. If, like, that was the caravan in 2018, this is such, like, I know everyone thinks they have the strongest hand, but this lie is so just bold and brazen, and it's indefensible. Like, they can't even go on regular to talk to actual reporters without getting just
In 600 meters, turn left onto Lotus Road. Head west on Graydon's Road toward Reservoir Circuit Trail. Continue for 3 kilometers.
It just doesn't hold up to any scrutiny. And also, really, it's a real window into what they truly believe, which is any immigrant, anyone who's here, has legal status is not a real person. They're inhuman. They do not count. And then, like, this is, like, they like to pretend like, oh, we're fine with legal immigration. It's illegal immigration we don't like. Well, but in this case, they are treating people who are here legally for, under an array of programs and saying they should not have access. They should not be here. We're going to just call them illegal. Right? That, like, they're just lying about people because in their mind, someone who's here legally went through the process, who waited in line, filed a legitimate amnesty claim, came over here for humanitarian reasons because what's happening in Ukraine or Afghanistan or any of that they are exactly the same as someone who crossed the border illegally. Right? That's the same. It is like that is what is in their head. That is the unspoken truth to their actual position.
And why are they the same, Dan? Why are they the same? Because they weren't born here. Like, basically, it's nativism. Like,
and they're not white because remember we're welcoming the South African immigrants here, the white South African immigrants here.
Afrikaners. That's another conversation.
Yes. Do you have any worry the American people will buy this bullshit?
I don't think so. I actually think this is one where it's like, huh? I mean, nobody's talking about that. Democrats have, like, it's again, this goes back to, like, I think one of the structural advantages Democrats have in this fight is, like, they are seen as a party that gives a shit about the sick and the poor and healthcare. Like, it's called Obamacare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a party plank. And the Democrats are saying unanimously and with one voice, this is about fighting for, ensuring that costs don't go up on insurance premiums and people have access to health care. And I think the canard that this is, Democrats trying to pay for, trans, undocumented migrants, like, health care it's such a convoluted and pathetic and destructive narrative. I have more faith in the American people, and I just don't think it's already baked in. Like, I think people understand why Democrats are fighting this fight, because they've basically been fighting this fight since I was 5. This has been going on for a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is a believable claim that they would actually do this. To the extent that where it has some potential efficacy, it's in this idea that Democrats are extreme on immigration issues. This is for a similar reason why that really infamous, gross trans ad about Kamala Harris was effective. It was not that people really thought that she was actually going to support taxpayer-funded, gender-affirming care for trying to play into that stereotype. I just don't think this is their best argument, right? This is the argument that gets their base fired up. Their base is already fired up. This is the argument that gets Fox News all fired up. Fox News is already fired up. If they have an actual political task here, it's that most people think the Republicans are in the wrong here. They think they're in the wrong on the shutdown, that they're actually responsible for this because they control all of government and are unwilling to negotiate, and they think that they're wrong on the policy issue. And so they're having an argument that is not of a piece of what the actual conversation is. And like this, sometimes you've been on it, we do this recently returned YouTube show, Political Experts React, where we look at political ads and content. And the ads that come from Republicans are often, like they have Fox News brain on it, which is, you can tell that the person who made the ad gets all of their information from right-wing media, so they're making an ad that speaks to that audience. I think this argument is a little akin to that.
Well, and I also think, people can be, if it's an issue like immigration that doesn't necessarily touch people at the kitchen table, they can be lied to, or the truth can be muddied. But people give a shit about their health agreements. People give a shit about their access to doctors, and they will find. You know what I mean? This is not, people get to the bottom of it, and I think it makes it harder to lie about what's actually happening.
All right, I've put this off long enough. It's time for everyone's favorite topic. I'm running out of room here, but everyone's favorite topic, Democratic president.
In 300 meters, turn left to stay on Darrell Road.
Alex, what have you made about the Democratic message so far? Effective or not so much?
I mean, listen, let's talk about the, what do we call it, the public service announcement from AOC and Bernie.
Yes.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
It's like, more of this. Like,
Take the next left to stay on Darrell Road.
so why has this been so elusive? Like, plain speak, declarative, informative, and authentic. Really clear. That's what this should be.
And in 50 meters, at the roundabout, take the second exit and stay on Darrell Road.
Should be fanning out, doing all kinds of this. It's just so abundantly clear in that video that this is the truth, and I just think it's actually really helpful. I mean, I think they need to do more of that. No more like clickbaity cat videos. Like this is a really serious topic. There's a way to just get at it in a succinct fashion that really underscores the gravity of the moment and the reason Democrats are taking a stand. And I think that video does it beautifully.
Yeah, I would say I don't mind the cat video. It's like for
I'm a cat lover too.
It got, last I checked, it had like nearly 4 million views on TikTok.
People love cats.
They love cat. Cat videos have always done well on the internet. It's one of some of the first viral videos involve cats. But like, I think I'll get to the Bernie video, AOC video in a minute. But I think there's sort of three things that Democrats could do better in their messaging. The first is stop trying to blame Republicans for the shutdown. Like they're constantly in there's so much of our content is like the Republicans shut it down, but this is the Trump shutdown. It's the MAGA shutdown. No one cares who's responsible for it, right? We can debate who's responsible for it, but that's not the point. That is an argument for Politico, Punch Bowl, inside the Beltway media, and the sort of value of shaping that conversation is so diminished in this media environment. It's just like it's not what people care about. Second, there is this like tension, like related to that, there's this tension between saying that, this fight's so important, but you're not the one who started the fight. Like, if you care so passionately about it, be proud of the tactic you used to start the fight. Like, we care about the government's very important, so we don't want to hurt any of these people. But the stakes here are so high for so many people that we have to take this extraordinary step to do it.
Totally.
Like, lean into it. Like, there is this sense of discomfort with the actual thing we're doing. Just like, we really want to fight, but we don't want to tell people we want the fight to come to us. Like, pick the fight. You pick the fight. Be proud you pick the fight. It's a righteous fight.
Totally. It's a principled fight. They have principle in their favor, and they should stand up.
Yes, lean into it. So that's 2. Stop confusing your legislative strategy and your messaging strategy. Your legislative strategy and the possible exit ramp here is some sort of deal with ACA tax credits. Like that. Like everyone, I'm sure every wishy-washy member wanted to know from Schumer or Jeffries, if we go in this, how do we get out? And that's the most obvious answer because it's really the only thing there might possibly one day be an agreement on. But that's your legislative strategy. The way you achieve your legislative strategy is to win the messaging war. And the way you win the messaging war is to make this entire thing be about a bigger conversation about you are the ones fighting to lower healthcare costs. You are fighting for people. Like, that is your strategic goal. Every moment talking about something else
Totally.
is a missed opportunity to talk about the one thing. That's why the AOC brief video is so good, because it makes it very clear. Here's why we're doing it. Here's why it's important. It's a big fucking deal, so we have to take on this big fucking risk to do it. And like this, we're like tiptoeing in. This is sort of the third thing, and this is like a problem with Democratic messaging a lot over the last couple of years here, is we're playing not to lose. Right? We're not confident in our position, so we're not being aggressive about it. Just like, we can win this fight, act like we win this fight, be aggressive.
Well, and if you've learned anything from the Trump years, play to win. Believe you can win. Have the posture of a winner.
We really struggle. Like, there's a learned helplessness that we have gotten. Like, in fairness, it's been a rough many years, right? Like, just for Democrats, we've got beat, like, the 2024 election was a scarring event. It's just be more aggressive about it.
It's like what Haley Barr, I think, is going to keep the main thing. The main thing is healthcare. Go at it, everything you got.
A Haley Barr reference for
You're
our younger
welcome.
listeners.
It's not a cat
one-time
video.
governor of Mississippi, but he was an RNC chair, very powerful.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
All right, one quick thing before we jump to break. The Supreme Court's new term is off to the races, and surprise, surprise, it's a mess. In October, the justices will decide if cops can storm your house without a warrant, if states can play games with black voters' districts, and if free speech stops your therapist's office door. And Crooked's legal podcast, Strict Scrutiny, is here to cut through the chaos with legal expertise and plenty of side-eye. That was written for me, I promise. New episodes drop every Monday. It's an amazing podcast. It's one of my favorite listens. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts and watch it on YouTube.
In 600 meters, turn left onto Eramosa Road West.
Every day, we here at Crooked Media sift through endless noise and misinformation, trying to make sense of it all for you. The attacks on free speech growing louder. Crooked's commitment to facts and no BS commentary has never been more essential. If you want to stay informed while supporting independent media, you're in the right place. We report them.
Take the next left onto Eramosa Road West.
Honest analysis, but here's the truth. We can't do it alone. If you believe in media that holds power accountable, consider becoming a paid subscriber to Crooked Media. Your support helps us keep doing this work. In return,
In 300 meters, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Muraduck Highway, C784.
you get all your favorite shows ad-free, plus exclusive subscriber-only content, and a Discord community to connect with like-minded people from across the country. Subscribe to Friends of the Pod on Apple, Substack, Spotify, or YouTube, or visit crooked.com/friends to help us keep building something great over here. Subscribe to Friends of the Pod on Apple, Substack, Spotify, or YouTube, or visit crooked.com/friends to help us keep building something great over here.
Hot Take America is brought to you by Wild Alaskan Company. Do you trust your fishmonger?
No, that slimy bastard.
Slick hunter.
I don't trust him as far as I can throw those fish guns. He's got a little shiftiness in his eyes. My fishmonger, he does.
I used to question everything about my fish, from nutrition to taste to sustainability, until I discovered
I don't even think he's Irish.
Alaskan Company.
I think it's a bit.
Wild Alaskan Company. Best way. Wild. Perfectly portioned, nutrient-dense seafood delivered directly to your door. Trust me, you haven't tasted fish that is good. Actually, I've eaten a ton of Wild Alaskan fish now. We've had salmon. There's a bunch of white fish we just have frozen.
Yeah.
I don't know what anymore.
I don't either.
They all
I made
taste
it
great.
too. I made a curry, like the coconut.
Oh, nice. We did a bunch of tacos. They all taste great. Slaws and lime on there. I don't know. It tastes really good. Wild Alaskan is 100% wild caught, never farmed. There's no antibiotics, GMOs, or additives. Just clean, real fish to support healthy oceans and fishing communities. Wild Alaskan fish is frozen off the boat to lock in taste, texture, and nutrients like omega-3s. Wild caught from Alaska, every order supports sustainable harvesting practices. Membership delivers flexible shipments, expert tips, and truly feel-good seafood. Excellent seafood. Highly recommend it. Try it risk-free, 100% money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied with your first box, Wild Alaskan Company will give you a full refund. No questions asked, no risk, just high-quality seafood. Not all fish are the same. Get seafood you can trust. Go to wildalaskan.com/crooked for $35 off your first box of premium wild-caught seafood. That's wildalaskan.com/crooked for $35 off your first order. Thanks to Wild Alaskan Company for sponsoring this episode.
Another part of the messaging fight that we need to talk about is the strange AI-generated videos Trump posted of Hakeem Jeffries this week. The videos feature Jeffries in a sombrero and mustache and are set to mariachi music, which is definitely not racist. The videos have sparked strong reactions among Democrats. The White House has been defiant, even playing one of the videos in a loop in the press room. Here's Jeffries' response, followed by Vance and a White House presser on Wednesday.
Could you give us your reaction to that Trump posted video tonight?
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions, and even, poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop.
There's one person who knows funny. It's Jamie Vance.
It's true. He leads with humor.
Alex, what do you make of this whole thing?
He was also asked if he thought Vance was asked if he thought the video was racist or bigoted and said, I don't even know what that means, which is like the first true thing.
Probably doesn't.
JD Vance said.
In 600 meters, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Frankston, Flinders Road, Mooriduck Highway.
She said, I mean, I gotta say, we've come so far as a country that the president, and I come so far, we've descended so far that the president of the United States is posting and defending what is just on its face racist garbage. And it's not funny. And the fact that the vice president of the United States
Exit the roundabout onto Frankston, Flinders Road. Continue on C777 for 3 kilometers.
This is one of those things where I spent time with, voters of color leading into the 2024 election. And a lot of them that I spoke with were ready to make peace with Trump. You gotta hope this is the kind of shit they remember, And you don't have to be a voter of color to care about this. In fact, you shouldn't just be a voter of color to care about this. In fact, more white people should care about this. But God, I hope they pay a price. It is not okay, and it's not funny, and it sheds light on the central, tactic and the strategy here, which is, race bait, make this about illegals, poke fun at the Democrats as being a party that cares about brown and black people, make that a joke, make the welfare and the wellness and the survival of the weakest among us and those who've been, just dealt the worst hands, make their unhappiness and their pain a thing to laugh at. I mean, it's so awful. I gotta say, I thought Hakeem Jeffries did absolutely the right thing, speaking to my friend and former colleague Lawrence O'Donnell, saying it's disgusting, saying it's racist, and then pivoting back to this is why we're in this fight, and just going back to keeping the main thing. But it is very hard to just let this pass and pivot to why Democrats are in this fight, because it's just appalling. It's appalling.
Yeah, it is absolutely appalling. The fact that this is like it's getting attention, which is why we're talking about it. It's been a big topic on Capitol Hill. But the fact that it's something that happened and is now the biggest story in America really shows, as you mentioned, how far we've descended, how much Trump has moved the Overton window on what's acceptable conduct in public society. There's always the tension with everything that outrageous that Trump does is you have to pick and choose. What are you going to fight about today? And I think Jeffrey said that right. If you listen to the full clip, Lawrence really set him up, because before...
Head west on Tower Hill Road. In 50 meters, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Tower Hill Road.
Before we cut in here, there's a long...
In 300 meters, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Tower Hill Road.
Thing about how basically your point, how disgusting it is, and so Jeffrey's response to it. And I think that's great. It's about Jeffrey, he should respond to it, but in general, every moment that we are talking about something other than our fight to lower healthcare for people that's what Trump wants. Like, that's why they're doing it. That's why they're leaning into it, because they want to take us down that path. I just think we have to be disciplined about it. You should condemn it, and as Jeffries did, pivot right away. Like, we need a little bit of, like, turn off our shoulders approach to these things, which is...
In 150 meters, at the roundabout, take the third exit onto Foot Street.
But just like this, Obama had to do this all the time, right? He was constantly in there is an example.
In 500 meters, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Foot Street.
Republican member of Congress who called him boy in a meeting during a shutdown. And he had to decide, like, whether that was going to be a public issue or not. Because, like, we were fighting to save the Affordable Care Act at the time. Like, there is, like, you just sort of have to decide, and, like, we can decide, like, whether to give Trump the outrage he wants or not. Like, and so we have to pick and choose the moments to do that.
Would you say, Dan, as a veteran of the Obama administration, that it's like refashioning of the when they go low, it's not that we go high, it's like when they go low, we wipe the shit off of our feet. I just don't even we keep marching. I don't even know, so many mixed metaphors, but because it's not necessarily trying to be above it, but it's
in 200 meters, turn left onto Reed Street.
I mean, it's not accepting the invitation.
Take the next left onto Reed Street.
Send, I guess. I don't.
Yeah, I just think you have to pick and choose, right? There are moments to do it and moments to not.
Yeah.
And
continue on Reed Street for 50 meters. Welcome home.
Like, you can't ignore it. Like, Hakeem Jeffries got asked the question. Like, you can't pretend like the question didn't happen. You can't do a Republican. I didn't see the video, right? But there is, like, as you said, stay focused on the main things. Stay focused.
Haley Barbour, you see? Now you're quoting him.
Yep, we're back to two Haley Barbour references in one podcast, which is the first two Haley Barbour references in the history of Pod Save America.
That's why I'm here.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday, we saw more authoritarian lunacy from this administration. If you recall, Secretary of Defense, because they won't call him Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth called more than 800 generals and admirals to Marine Base Quantico. There was a ton of very scary speculation about the purpose of the meeting. Were we headed to war? Was there imminent attack? But as it turned out, this was mostly a TED-style lecture where Hegseth sauntered around the stage, ranting about the wokeness of the military,